Hello. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our 15th episode of Girls Tech Talk. So this episode, we are going to discuss about DevOps spectrum. So if you want to start your career in DevOps, then what are the things you have to know, or what are the areas you need to build your skill? You will have an insight from this. So we will start as an DevOps engineer journey in different spectrum. So things you need to know, or I would say in case of any product build and product management, what are the areas the DevOps is actually DevOps offering out there. So DevOps means development and operation. So it's not only the product build, but it also contains for example, setting up the platform. So where we set up the infrastructure and platform, where we actually have to define the platform scaling and configuration policies. It can be maintained in case of Azure, it should be done by ARM template or biceps or maybe in Terraform policies. And then one of the areas we have to think about is like governance, like when the product is built, then how the product is performing in terms of the quality, in terms of the stability. So there could be different metrics that you have to build as a different DevOps engineer, so that you have a total insight of that product. You should have that knowledge of that product once it is performing in that product in production environment. And then the third item is like the security. It comes on under the code or application level security, as well as your platform level security. And there could be many policies that you have to build, and you have to deploy these policies, and then you have to continuously change those policy according to the organization policy changes. So those are the skill sets you have to build in case you want to have that level of in capability. So it also called as policy as code in terms of an DevOps field. And then we have like quality assurance. So it's more often testing of that environment as well as the application. So generally, if you are a developer, you write the unit test cases, and then you might have seen adding the running those unit test scripts from your Azure DevOps. Or it also covers how much is your code coverage, if there is any static or dynamic testing that you have to write or you have to incorporate in your DevOps pipeline. So those are the areas are important. And in terms of testing, there is another also concept of security testing, like penetration testing or other type of security policy testings that you have to incorporate in that DevOps pipeline. And the last and the most important is build and release management of the product. So where we create the CI/CD pipelines and then release pipelines. And this area is the first one that generally we try to see, like the impacted area we see. And Tara is going to say a lot of details on that. So let's hear from Tara.
Yeah. So basically, I'll start with wherever there is someone who wants to build their career with DevOps as a DevOps engineer, they want to understand what all are the topics or what all are the areas which they have to work with. So most of the time, the misunderstanding comes as if we are saying DevOps, we understand that it's all about the CI/CD pipeline. But DevOps is not only limited to the CI/CD pipeline, but it's like a really broader spectrum, specifically in today's situation where all the IT firms and all the businesses are moving towards the DevOps culture, rather moving towards DevSecOps culture. And it contains lots of topic which the DevOps engineer has to understand and has to implement on day-to-day application development. So there are three basic parts in a DevOps way of working. there is system thinking, then there is a feedback loop, and there is continuous learning. So if you search DevOps in Google, the first thing you'll get that as a loop, that infinity loop, where you'll see it's always like system thinking and then feedback loop and then continuous learning. So that's what DevOps is. And in between comes security, which includes everything and comes as a DevSecOps. So when we say that it's about the first way is system thinking, we have to understand that now we are moving towards the shift left culture. So it's like we want to see the failures, or we want to see the issues with the application as soon as possible. As soon as the developer develops it we want to see what kind of issues can come up with the integration when that new feature gets integrated with the application. So that's the first thing which we want to incorporate in our way of working now. So, and for that comes the picture of this automated CI/CD pipeline. So that is only one part of DevOps, and then it comes that feedback loops. You are going to get issues. You have to incorporate those fixes, and then again it should be there in the testing testing environment, so that again we can find out if there are any issues or not. And then again comes the third thing is continuous learning, which we want to have on like everyday basis. We now it's like earlier we had SDLC life cycle where the time to live for the features was quite huge. The timeline was huge, but now we want to have it as a agile mode where we want the features to be short lived. Considering the branches itself, we want the branches to be short lived. So these are a few things which we have to understand as a DevOps engineer, and we have to incorporate that in the culture of the application team. So that is one thing. Now, if I ask what is there as an expectation from me as a DevOps engineer, so first thing first comes is you have to understand how infra you are going to provision, how you will incorporate automation in this infra provisioning or in application deployment or in testing. Anything which we do on day-to-day basis for application development, we have to understand as a DevOps engineer how you will automate that process. So when we say we want to provision infra, you have to come up with the solution in an automated way. As Prima said, like you should be knowing either Terraform or ARM templates or biceps or whatever. Like we are talking about Azure platform, so that's why we are saying all this stuff. But it should be some, at least some automation knowledge you should be aware of for infrastructure provisioning. Then comes the second thing is you should be aware of at least one type of scripting language. So on day-to-day basis, when you are going to work in Azure DevOps, you should be at least aware of at least Azure CLI or Bash script, shell scripting, any one of these. If you are well aware of, or you have a very good hands-on in PowerShell, that's more than better to ask for. And then comes about the testing, automation testing of all this stuff. So when you are provisioning your infra or when you are doing deployment of your application, you should also be giving a solution of automated testing for these infrastructure provisioning. So there are several things by which you can do testing. You can do pester testing. You can have desired state comparison after the deployments are done. So these are things which you should be aware of. And then, as Tima said, you should also be aware of security testing. Apart from that, you should also be aware of chaos testing. So it's like whenever there is downtime in your system, how it's behaving, how much logs you're getting, how much monitoring alerts are there, how much chaos are there in the application. These you have to understand. And then the few of the last things are like you have to understand how you will incorporate policies in this whole development process, how you will create good policies so that development life will be easier and deployment will be more easy to go from one environment to other environment. So when we are talking about writing policies, starting from merging your changes from feature to main branch or master branch, to doing the deployment to different environments, from dev to system testing to UAT to production. You have to come up with the proper policy. You should be aware of the proper policies, and then you should be able to incorporate all these policies in the PRs or in the pipelines. We should have a proper code for finding there is any vulnerabilities in the code or not. So you should be aware of like how you can integrate Sonar Cube or Black Duck or those kind of things which you can actually incorporate. Then you should also be aware of infrastructure and networking. So when I say networking, it's not like really required, but at least you should be aware of few of the stuff. Like when I'm saying my application is deployed into production, you should be aware of, or you should have at least idea how you are going to make your application highly available. What all are the things which are going to be come into a picture as infra by which your application will be highly available. Your RTO, RTM will be there, and how you are going to give it as a best possible solution. So these are few things which, as a DevOps engineer, you should be at least aware of, and then you should be able to give solutions for all these issues and situations in the application development. So that's all I think I wanted to add as a DevOps engineer. Ask from any of the organization, like if you are going to be a smaller organization to the biggest firms where we have like 1,000 products running. But these are the few things which are definitely going to be there and which are definitely going to be coming up as an ask from the DevOps engineer. Yeah, off to you.
Yeah, I think we are all good. And that's for today. So let's sync up next week. Yeah, Tara, if you want to close it.
Yeah. Okay. So in next episode, maybe we'll be setting up a DevOps pipeline, and then we'll show deployment for containers, and then we'll move forward. Have a nice weekend.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.